Okay, we are here at the last day of the Phoenix Comic Con with David Mack. I'm from thegeekden.com. David, for the 5 people who don't know, and they probably should, who are you and what do you do?
My name is David Mack. I'm probably most known as the writer and creator of Kabuki. This is the newest volume, The Alchemy, that came out through Marvel Comics. And I'm probably also known as the writer and artist of Daredevil at Marvel Comics.
First off the bat, your comics are really unique. The way you draw it's less like traditional comic storytelling and more like it's more like something you'd see in an art gallery. You use a lot of different mediums. How is it that you came to this? Considering your initial art was you had the ideas in there. It was unique on its as it was, but you started with black and white and you just moved further and further and further. How do you come to the decision to do that as an artist?
I just started as a writer first, and I just try to write, with whatever voice I feel like is best for that particular story. And I sort of, when I come to the art, I try to treat the art as another tool of the storytelling. So I might ask the same kind of questions you would ask as a writer when you might think, is a story most powerfully told in first person or third person? And those kind of writing choices. I'll kind of ask the same kind of choices visually, like what's the medium that the story or even that particular scene is most powerfully told in, or what kind of panel rhythm or structure or different color choice. So with the very first Kabuki volume, it dealt with some flashing back and forth with time, and it made me think of like old black and white photographs, kind of seem timeless at once, but at the same time transport you to a different time. And they abstract things immediately. So I thought the first volume would maybe be best in black and white, and it's kind of a crime story set in Japan. So I felt like maybe sort of a black and white crime noir approach would be an appropriate look for the first volume. That kind of black and white abstraction that immediately gives you a sense of period, it's probably been done to really good effect with different movies, like Raging Bull or David Lynch's The Elephant Man or Schindler's List. There's an immediate abstraction in it, and it sort of creates its own time and space with that.
Exactly.
And then with some of the more recent Kabuki volumes, it gives me an opportunity to.
Phoenix Comic Con attendees.
I'll wait till she stops talking.
The raffle for the PS3 at booth 5.
It gives me an opportunity to use a variety of other art processes.
Go head over to booth 550, Spencer Brinkhoff, for the raffle.
It is amazing though the evolution in style, the evolution in what you're doing creatively from volume 1 to the most recent volume.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question. In Kabuki the Alchemy, I think it was in the second or third issue, you have a character in there who looks suspiciously like David Mack, and meets the Kabuki, talks to her on an airplane. How did you come to the decision to do this, and why did you want to insert that into the story?
Well, in that particular part, it was chapter 4. I'll show you. There was in the Powers story by Mike Oeming and written by Brian Bendis. There was a character they had in one of their books that Mike had based on me.
Oh, did you like the little? Speaking of which, in the Oni double feature, did you like the little parody / nod that did you?
Yeah, it was funny. So there was this point in. Let's see, maybe it's in. There was a point in the story here where she's traveling on a plane and there's someone sitting next to her, and I kind of used Mike Oeming's drawing, his version of the drawing, kind of based on me as that character, with the idea that it was a sort of a crossover of Powers and Kabuki, with that character from the Powers comic. In a way, and, it was just one of those airplane conversations that you might have, where you meet somebody for a brief time, and there's this odd crossover of their life to your life, where you might exchange something interesting that the different people take with them.
What is it that Chuck Palahniuk called it? Single serving friends?
Right, yeah, like in Fight Club, single serving friends. And in this case, I had written I had written some like sort of autobiographical type things before that it seemed like an appropriate point to kind of found its organically kind of found its way into the story, and so it was sort of an access point for that to enter the story and just sort of change the contrast of the story and continue a theme of a book inside a book, which is one of the visual tropes I use in this volume.
Now you had brief runs in Daredevil, and and generally you would bring something unique to every run that you did. And I wanted to ask you about two. I wanted to ask you about Wake, the one that you worked. Is it Wake? The one
Wake Up,
the one that you worked on with Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah.
Now there was something really unique in that book. I've heard stories about this before that Joe Quesada was initially supposed to do parts of the book.
Yeah.
So, just so that people don't know, what happened there?
Yeah, we liked it. I right before that I was writing Daredevil with Joe Quesada doing the art.
Yeah.
And I started writing Daredevil as the writer right after Kevin Smith was the writer with Joe Quesada on the art. So the whole first Daredevil volume, all the art was Joe Quesada. And so now I would be doing the art with Bendis writing. So we thought it would be interesting to somehow find a segue of Joe Quesada doing the intro pages that then sort of contrasted the very different art approach that I had for the story. And so Brian kind of wrote into the story where the little boy in Wake Up is imagining this comic book world. He sees it in Joe Quesada Daredevil art style.
Yeah,
the plan was for Joe to draw those, but he had become editor-in-chief in the time where I was writing the story that he was drawing, and he became increasingly more busy. And then Brian said, it looks like Joe's going to be too busy to make this work, so try to draw it like the Joe Quesada look.
And a lot
so
of people
I kind
were
of Frankensteined it together to try to make it look like Joe Quesada, but a little bit of a increasingly distorted Joe Quesada style until it faded into the watercolor stuff.
That was just really cool because I'd never seen anything like that up to that point. Now, in comics, what was the first thing that you had published as a comic creator?
There were several things that I had in print before the first Kabuki volume. This is my very first Kabuki volume that I did in college. And there were a few other things that I was doing in college before this. In fact, Brian Bendis and I had worked together as a penciler and inker team in comics for a few years before I was able to do this. So there are a bunch of other things out there, but this is sort of this is like what I keep in print, and then everything in front of it, I try to purposely not keep in print because it's so crude and raw.
You're like, we'll put those in the sketchbooks.
I don't even put it in there usually.
Really?
Yeah.
See, because I know you. There was something I got from you a while ago. It was a prestige format book that had just a variety of other work outside of Kabuki.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it was called, but it was really interesting.
Cool.
And one other question. For aspiring people aspiring to be either comic writers, artists, really, you've covered a lot of different things in the industry, so it's really hard to nail one down. What would you recommend? What would be your advice?
I'm sorry, for people coming into comics?
People trying to break into the industry.
As a creator?
Yes.
Just, the key is to do it, so the key is kind of to start it. Some people just kind of talk about it, never start it. And then once you start it, finish it. And then once you've completed it, show it to people, and then keep showing it to them.
Exactly, because you see all these indie comics are one issue, and then it's like, oh, we lose interest or we run out of money and we don't want to build up anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we're reading the interview to a close, would you say that thegeekden.com is the best website for people looking for comic information, movies, video games, anime, and all stuff awesome and geeky?
Yeah. Maybe I guess I would say that. Yeah.
It sounds good. I like that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's like
serious
yes.
Place.
It's like yes. It is the greatest website of all time. You should go. Beep. Did you just beep? No. All right. Well, it was great having you on. Thank you for this interview.